Can you see rates hitting double digits at this point?
No, that would be insane. They would break the whole system. They would break the whole system.
Did you see that thing I posted on Twitter? Yeah, what the fuck is that little thing?
Fruit fly.
Yeah, I know.
No.
You didn't see that? About, let me bring it up.
I think they just signed on a new housing minister of housing. I don't know if you saw that. They shuffled the...
Oh, because the buddy declined to go back?
I don't know if he declined or if there's bad optics around him, so they swapped him out, but...
Basically, the headline is big interest rate cuts ahead from Bank of Canada if 2001 is any indication. So I'm not going to go into everything. You could read the post for yourself, but basically they're saying in 2025 we're going to start seeing pretty dramatic rate cuts if any indication of 2021, the way that the market's operating right now, is similar. That's what we could expect. So, and then to couple that with Tiff, his comment the last time we were on this podcast, mentioning that housing prices and interest rates and mortgage rates are have zero relation to what they're actually doing in terms of interest rates. Not zero, but they're not directly related to what they're doing in terms of interest rates.
He literally said we're not trying to attack the housing market.
Exactly,
we're attacking CPI.
Exactly, CPI, which is somewhat, I guess mortgage interest is somewhat wrapped into that kind of, or is it? No, it's not.
Well, it's actually negatively correlated.
Exactly, yeah. So inherently it's not actually being affected.
The point is they're not doing anything that they're trying to do is not related to housing prices. It's not. It's core inflation, food, gas, supply and demand of all the general goods that make up that basket.
Yeah.
Not housing. In fact, it's actually contributing to higher CPI housing, what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's why he's probably saying that, because he knows that it's having the reverse effect.
Yeah. So basically, they get down to 2%, which is what they're predicting in 2025, which I can't see why. What was it last? What was it last?
2.8.
It was 2.8, right?
2.8,
was it not?
With a significant percentage of that being housing.
Exactly. So, and it's declined a significant amount, almost 1% last time, and then a full almost a 1% prior to that.
Yeah,
so
if you pull up a 12-month chart of inflation, it's just
it's declining.
Decline every month. Now it's still like relatively high for groceries in some dangerous areas, but we might see
CPI hit 2% sooner than 2025. So if that's the case, the big question is, what are interest rates going to do? Are they going to start declining? Because ideally speaking, that's what would really actually happen.
I agree. The only way they do that is, in my opinion, if like headline prints start becoming really negative, right? Like not only is CPI down, but also like unemployment's up and people can't pay their mortgages. And now here's what's if that does happen, if and when, it's going to be the market's going to take off, man.
Oh yeah.
Like in my opinion, I don't know. Do you not think?
Yeah. How not?
Like in Windsor specifically, I don't speak for every market, obviously, but like I just don't see how it couldn't.
Can you see rates hitting double digits at this point?
No, that would be insane. They would break the whole system. They would break the whole system. They could. I don't even think they could get away with that in the U.S. because they're all on 30-year mortgages. But you would literally. Here's why I always like to think 3 or 4 layers deep. Here's why they won't do it. Number one, you'd have the middle class getting smoked, and the middle class will vote you out and potentially riot and stuff like that. And I was thinking about something like,
they'd riot if that happened? People start losing their houses
I don't know. I was trying to think, like, okay, let's say you're a business owner and you've got 100 employees, whatever, and within your operation here, people are starting to feel like they're underpaid. You're not being a great leader. They can't keep up with their mortgage payments. They're starting to get disgruntled. And you go on for 6, 12, 18 months and you're just kind of like, screw it, I don't care, whatever. What do you think is going to happen after like that pot just keeps boiling and boiling and boiling? Like eventually they're gonna lose their shit. Right? It's just the way it is. And that's the same way with society, right? Like they can feel pressure. They can feel like, oh, people are starting to get pissed off. People are starting to lose their keys. And not just people. Well, the people are one thing, but the corporations.
Yeah.
Hey, our profits are down. We're not making any sales because nobody has any money, or people are defaulting on the mortgages. The banks are now calling up their ministers and their representatives in council and say, hey, you need to cut freaking rates, man. Like, we're losing. We don't want these houses. Cut the rates. People can't afford them. Like, you've screwed everything up.
Yeah.
Once that starts happening, like, what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, they want to push it. They have to push it to that brink.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're stupid.
So one thing that I am having a little bit of a difficult issue with is actually the CPI and how it's, again, this goes back into the narrative that this whole thing is manipulated, but the interest rates, I don't feel either. I'm reluctant to think that the increases in interest rates are actually a direct result of CPI decreasing at the rate that it actually is. Does that make sense? I don't feel that. Typically, when this happens, you would see a reduction and maybe a significant reduction in employment. We're not seeing that. And it's making me a little bit kind of like, what the fuck's going on here?
It's an interesting
do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah,
sure.
it actually is really
What are some of your theories? Do you have any?
don't know. I don't know. It's a really interesting scenario where, the housing market hasn't come down. Again, it's come down, but there's still a lot of activity in it. Employment is still heavy.
I kind of have
it's really interesting.
I have a theory of why. A couple of theories. If you just think outside the box for a second. Number one, there's trillions and trillions of dollars in the economy that are slowly getting filtered out. And what they're doing is they're getting filtered out from people that spend. The middle class and poor are just spending their money. And it's getting filtered into business owners and corporations and whatever else. So it's getting taken out of the middle class spending. Out of play. It's for the middle class, right? And that's slow. That's lagging. Now, stuff that's not getting filtered out is the necessities.
Yeah.
Gas, heating, fuel, electricity, groceries. They don't have a choice. So
which is still all-time high.
Yeah, so they're, okay, I got to start to take money out of my budget for vacations or whatever else and pools and renovations and start contracting my budget and spend it on those things. That's why those things aren't coming down. Housing's another one. That's why housing's kind of... It can absorb a big shock because it's a necessity. You're gonna cut other expenses.
Exactly.
You need a place to live, right?
That's what I've never understood why people.
So if you
all of a sudden housing gets more expensive, and then it's like, oh well, people are gonna start losing their homes. No, people just adjust.
Yes,
they adjust. Maybe they're not driving a Range Rover anymore. Maybe they're driving a fucking Corolla.
The only way they lose their jobs is if the corporations stop making money.
Exactly.
But here's the things: the corporations are getting all the money right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're sitting on billions and billions of cash. Right?
Now that is a scenario that you do have to look outside the box because you're not being told that. That's
of course.
When I say I feel a little bit weary of what's going on. It's because it's behind the scenes shit. Right? It's not an obvious type of scenario. And the reason why I feel this way is because I like to, again, we always try to predict what's going to happen. Right now is such an odd time. I feel like the only way to succeed in a market like this is to look outside the box, because when you start looking inside the box, what people would predict would happen is an inside the box scenario. The problem is nothing happens inside this box. You're only being told what should be happening inside the box, but what happens inside the box never actually happens anyways.
Why these predictions are always wrong, man.
Exactly. They're always wrong. They don't operate on any kind of timeline. They don't happen in any kind of logical sequence, logic at all.
There are no rules to the game.
Yeah.
That can't be changed at a moment's notice, right? Okay, you're predicting the market's going to crash. Well, they just flooded Canada with 1 million immigrants a year for 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, throw your prediction out the window. Yeah. Oh, you think the market's going to crash? New handout for groceries. New handout for energy. New handout for this. New handout for that.
Yeah.
Free dentist for everybody.
Extended amortization.
So that's my second point that I wanted to make. There's so much money in the system that's only now being filtered out. It's still got a ways to go here. We got another probably 6 to 12 months, I think, before that money is really filtered out and supply and demand come into balance. And number two, Canada specifically is so socialist that they're giving people money.
Yeah.
So, like I just got another one of these energy rebates. You get a direct deposit, $150 or whatever it is, quarterly, whatever, right? I don't know. But like because we're such a socialist country, they're just kind of like they're always taking from the rich and giving to the poor.
Isn't that so crazy when you think of it? Instead of actually just like kind of like reducing the rate a little bit, they just want to give you a rebate. Well, don't people what?
Well, what they do, I think what their argument is they carbon tax all the big energy producers. Then they take that tax money and redistribute it. Right, so that's the theory. But what the energy producers just do is they just charge more money.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
It's
pandering.
Of course,
that's all it is. It's pandering.
But I agree. But
and it works. So it's fucking sad.
It works, but it's also giving them money.
Yeah.
It's supporting them, right? So that how are they paying their bills? How are they affording the extra mortgage payment? And my theory is that they're always going to do that.
Yeah.
They're always going to increase the population, right? Maybe not at this pace, but it's going to be increasing at 1% a year.
But what happens if people start dying off at a faster rate than we're producing?
Then they'll just increase.
I agree.
You don't have a choice. It's just like kind of in life. There's a general theory or business. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
So they have, because it's such a flawed system and a fake money and all that stuff, the economy has to keep growing. They have to keep printing money. They have to, or it dies.
Yeah.
So they let it get way too out of control with 8, 9, 10, 12% inflation. They just have to get it back to the controlled inflation. But here's the thing. It's still going to be inflationary. 2% inflation is not normal. It's just what they have arbitrarily chosen.
So this is what will more likely happen. They'll probably actually get it down to 2% inflation, but it'll skyrocket right back up to what was the average rate? 3.9 over the last 50 years. That's what's going to happen. It's going to fly. It's just up and down, up and down, up and down, nonstop. The average rate of inflation over 50 years was 3.9%.
Was that CPI?
I don't fucking remember. Yeah, probably.
Well, their headline inflation.
Keep on talking.
Whatever their headline inflation is, we don't ever believe that, right? That's for their chosen basket of goods. So their headline inflation is almost irrelevant to me because I don't want to live my life in a headline inflation way.
Yeah.
Paying rent and buying groceries and buying gas and whatever else is in their basket and cheese and bacon and steaks. Right, like I want to use a different basket to gauge my level of financial success.
During the observation period from 1960 to 2022, the average rate of inflation was 3.8% per year.
Is that CPI? Does it say specifically?
It doesn't say CPI specifically. Let me see. It doesn't say.
Yeah, I mean they're probably going to keep the headline number at 2 to 2.5%. That's going to be the headline.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the headline is.
Yeah.
I think what people need to understand at a big picture level is the whole money game is inflationary. Like it's inevitable. It has to happen. Like inflation, if there's no inflation, that's why the bubble never bursts because it keeps inflating.
Yeah.
People think, well, it can't inflate anymore, but you've been hearing that for 20 years. Yes, it can. It just has to be at a moderate pace, and then they have to keep raising the population. They might have to redistribute wealth, right? They have to take it out of the corporation's hands, tax whatever the case is, redistribute it to the lower economy, keep everybody at peace, keep everybody from rioting, give everybody their social handouts.
Yeah.
But the big theory for me is that inflation's inevitable. It has to happen. It's actually their most powerful tool is inflation because they can print money at will. That's what inflation is. It's money printing, money creation. And then they have to keep the population at peace. You do that by distracting them, watch the stupid news, get pulled in this direction, pulled in that direction. Now everybody's fighting about something, right? Keep everybody kind of like arguing about stupid stuff that doesn't matter. Keep everybody able to pay their bills.
That's fucking fruit fly, dude.
Yeah. Keep inflation at a manageable target, which is like people don't notice it.
Yeah.
Unless you're smart with money.
Yeah. Then
you're like, oh my God, we have a 2 to 3% inflation rate. Frick, if I have a levered asset, 5-to-1 leverage on real estate, 2% inflation is 5x my money.
Yeah.
Like it's actually like 10% gains just on inflation just for sitting there and doing nothing, right? So you use inflation to your benefit.
Yeah.
What people think is going to happen is we're going to enter like some sort of long deflationary period. it can't happen. The
think-
whole system would.
I think the
would
problem is the last time we've actually gone through something like this in terms of like a real deflationary period, technology wasn't where it is. Money's moving way faster across the world than it ever has.
So true.
So I think people aren't taking that into consideration, which I think has the potential to shift anything that anybody's talking about at this point.
So true. It wasn't
Let alone
really
the fact that
global.
it's manipulated.
Yeah.
The fact that, again, you can move money a lot quicker these days, and the technological advances are not being factored into a lot of these predictions.
Yeah.